Now, I know that Game Week 10 isn't even over yet, but that doesn't stop me making a video for you guys. So here are players to buy and avoid for Game Week 11. Now, we need to talk about Bryan Mbeumo. He is proof that patience pays off in FPL. He is consistently returning against pretty much any level of opposition so far this season. To be honest, that's quite good, because coming up, he's got Liverpool and Arsenal in his next 3. However, regardless of the quality of those opposition, Brentford have a fantastic record against the top 6 teams in the league, extending back to last season. And Mbeumo, he's guaranteed to start every game, play 90 minutes, and of course, without Tony, he's the designated penalty taker for Brentford, and his underlying numbers are fantastic. 0.92 expected returns per 90, and you can actually use that per 90 stat in anger because he plays 90 minutes every game. It's absolutely fantastic. It's one of the top in the whole league. You know, it's better than Saka, up there with the likes of Son and Erling Haaland, and he's 6.6 million. I think with all those plus points going his way, he's a fantastic option, and a lot better, I would suggest, than players that are more expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a bit boring and obvious to be talking about Bukayo Saka as a player to buy, but I don't have a problem with that. Boring and obvious is fine by me. He's a really solid pick. You know, he didn't have a light the world up in Game Week 10 against Sheffield United, but he's still got an assist despite not really being in the game. He's just such a solid pick that has got a return for each start he's made in the Premier League so far. 8.6 million, he's just ridiculously underpriced. We saw Odegaard get rotated against Sheffield United, but even with his niggling injury, Saka still played. He's Arsenal's designated penalty taker when he's on the pitch. Obviously, he's been given some away, but he's definitely going to take some penalties before the end of the season. By far and away, their best player, and he's nailed in that right-wing position. I think one of the reasons why he's playing so much is they don't have someone that can compete with Saka in that right-wing spot. They just don't. You know, Martinelli has competition in Trossard, Havertz can play in Odegaard's position, but Saka, really the only guy that can play on the right. As we said, 4 goals, 5 assists in 9 starts, an incredible record so far, and an incredible price. Yes, Newcastle away on the face of it is a tough fixture, but Arsenal going forward are really, really good and from an attacking perspective, and I wouldn't rule out Saka doing well in that game. Yes, I know it's a bit knee-jerky to be talking about Eddie Nketiah, but why not for a short-term punt, right? He always seems to score goals when he plays for Arsenal, and with Gabriel Jesus being out for a few weeks, I think he's going to get a good run of games in the team. I would expect him to start the next one, considering he scored a hat-trick against Sheffield United. And I'll just say, again, similar to the point I made with Saka, Arsenal are a really good attacking team, and even though they've got Newcastle away in Game Week 11, wouldn't rule out a goal from Nketiah. The only risk, of course, is that he could be benched at any time. I would be very surprised if he got benched in Game Week 11, of course, just scored a hat-trick. So if Arteta benched him for Newcastle away, that's a pretty harsh one. But yeah, in future game weeks, we all know, of course, he can be benched for another option. But 5.5 million, that'll probably rise, to be fair, before the Game Week 11 deadline. But I just think he's a great option. And Mark Gahey at 4.5 million, I think is the best defender at this price point. Certainly for the next few game weeks. I mean, the fixture run they're about to go on is really, really nice. And I could quite easily foresee 2 or 3 clean sheets from their next 5 games. Without spoiling the rest of the video, there are probably some defenders at a similar price point to him that people might own at the moment and they're looking to sell. And I think Mark Gahey is a perfect option. Palace emerging as one of the best defences in the league so far this season. I thought they put up a really good defensive performance against Tottenham. Obviously got beaten. Tottenham, though, are top of the league, so it's no surprise that they got beaten, but I thought they put up a good fight. And I think the fact they don't have Eze or Elise in their team at the moment, they're having to rely on their defence, which is, you know, pushing Hodgson to play a more defensive sort of tactic, and I think that's only going to increase Palace's chances of getting some clean sheets. And comparing him to another Palace centre-back in Anderson, 0.4 million cheaper than him. Personally, I don't see why you'd go Anderson over Gahey. We'll talk about Anderson in a second, though. Yeah, obviously started 9 of the 10 games. He's nailed in that team. I think he missed the game due to a little niggle, the one game that he did miss. Goal threat, it's not massive, but he definitely did have a decent chance against Tottenham from a corner, so I wouldn't rule out his chances of scoring in the upcoming games either. I just think at 4.5 million, you can't go wrong. Speaking of Anderson, he is the first player that I'd be looking to avoid at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong, if you've got him in your team at the moment, I wouldn't be rushing out and selling him. I think he's an absolutely fine option, particularly with the fixtures that Crystal Palace have got coming up. But the fact he's had so many attacking returns this season, 4 clean sheets, 3 attacking returns in 10 starts is absolutely fantastic. But I don't think that it's sustainable. I mean, he's got 2 goals, 1 assist, 0.8 XG, 0.7 expected assists. You go back to Gahey, 0.6 XG, 0.2 expected assists. There ain't much between the two of them. And I don't think it justifies the 0.4 million price difference. So if I was looking at a Crystal Palace defender at the moment, which I imagine quite a lot of people will be lining up, I'd go for Gahey over Anderson. And I think, this isn't, I don't think, I'm not saying this from a salty perspective, but owners can count themselves lucky, I'd say, with the returns that they've got from him so far. Yeah, Palace have got a nice run. If you've still got him, then absolutely keep him. But if you're looking to buy a Palace defender, I'd avoid Anderson and go for Gahey. We're a bit heavier on the players to avoid this week than I have been in previous video, but another one to avoid is Gabriel. I just don't think he's nailed in that Arsenal team anymore. To be honest, I can't work out why Arteta isn't starting him. I think he's miles better than Kivior, who just started the Sheffield United game, albeit, of course, Arsenal kept a clean sheet in that one. But yeah, I think against the low block teams as well, Arteta seems to want to start other defenders above him. I don't see why, again, but that just seems to be the case. And last season, one of the real upsides of Gabriel that he was offering a lot of goal threat, but this season it's very minuscule. 0.2 expected goals, 0.1 expected assists. I mean, barely even a sniff so far this season. And he's got Newcastle in game week 11, so you'd expect Arsenal to probably concede in that one. Personally, if I had Gabriel, I'd be looking at Gahey, if you don't have him already, as a replacement. I think I'll hold my hands up on Martinelli. I recommended him as a nice differential last week, and of course he could still come good, right? I'm not going to rule out Martinelli as being a bad player that can't return, but he seems to be getting subbed early, regularly. I don't think he's got that left-hand side nailed down. Whenever Trossard comes on in his place, Trossard seems to almost play better than Martinelli has. And he's definitely not getting the level of returns that he did last season. I think, to be honest, that's partly down to the fact that there's no Gabriel Jesus in the Arsenal team. I think Gabriel Jesus really brought Martinelli into games for Arsenal and really brought the returns out of him. And without Jesus in the team, I just don't think we're seeing the same Martinelli. And the fact that Arsenal now have Champions League fixtures, the games are being balanced, his minutes are being managed, I just don't think he's worth it. I think 7.7 million, you may as well go for Brian and Bumo, to be honest, if you wanted a midfielder. Save yourself over $1 million, just go for him. He's on penalties, Martinelli isn't. Guaranteed to play 90 minutes every game, which obviously Martinelli isn't. Yeah, I just don't see Martinelli as a good option at the moment. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. Quick little look at the players that have played so far in game week 10 that I would look to buy or avoid. We actually had some players that are worth avoiding at the moment. So please let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of those thoughts. Apologies if I sound a bit funky. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. But yeah, hopefully we get over that soon across the videos I make this week. Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Comment down below what you think. Subscribe to the Golden Goal channel if you want to see more content. I'll be back again with another video soon.